Okay, wonderful. Okay, cool. So far we've covered about 115 odd questions. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question in there. Okay, and let's move on now. Okay, I hope question number 116 is visible now.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So once you have the answer, just call it out, and then we'll go through it.
I would like to go with C.
C for Charlie. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Isaac.
I too would like to call it C.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you're not sounding
So
confident. Which is the other answer which is confusing you?
no, that wasn't it was not the other answer was confusing me. The confusion was on
Mm-hmm.
uh, I didn't think programs had work breakdown structures. That's what I was thinking about. Like, I haven't seen work breakdown structures for programs, but I've seen them for projects. I've not seen because usually work breakdown structures get into the nitty gritties of the flow of tasks from start to finish,
Mm-hmm.
which is a detail that programs rarely jump into because they break down. That goes to most of their component activities and all, which is
Mm-hmm.
where projects lie. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
bit. That's the hesitation you were hearing in my voice.
Okay. 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 And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But uh, and thanks for that explanation. Uh, I want to understand why do we feel C is the best answer?
Yeah, it's like mentioned in the answer only, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
will not like get into nitty-gritties of the project level activities.
Mm-hmm.
So from that angle, I'm just like a plan to stick to C. In the program, we'll be having like high level activities, so which will be like executed as part of each of the program components.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me kind of try and paint a picture over here, and then we'll go through the answers. Okay. The reason I brought this up is because, again, right, different organizations run programs in a fairly different way. Okay. And when they run things in a different way, certain teams or certain departments may start excluding an entire set of documents altogether. Now, when it comes down to PGMP and like any of the other PMI certifications, right, there is always a method on how we do things. And again, right, the reality might have a slight bit of a variation on it. Okay, so you need to keep that in mind, right? So when it comes down to program scope, okay, primarily you're looking at two things over here. One is a scope statement, which is quite a bit of a detailed scope statement, which breaks it down in a very detail, saying what is in scope, what is out scope, and it goes into a fair amount of detail, right? And what you're also looking into the scope part of it is you're breaking down the different components of the scope. Okay, now this is where you're going this into, okay, fine, if I have to do this particular activity, then how do I break it down? Okay, now if you're coming from the PMP background, and Isaac, I understand there might be a bit of a thought process around it, that yes, for a project you will be creating a WBS, you would also be creating a WBS for a program. Okay, now that becomes very very critical, because this is, see, unlike PMP, right, PMP you have too many documents that you need to kind of look into. Okay, that's not there for PgMP. PgMP has very limited set of documents. Okay, but PWS in those documents is also critical. Okay, so what PWS is doing is it's breaking down the program scope into key milestones. Okay, which will help the program manager track the program progress. Okay, so hence PWS becomes very, very important. Okay, now is PWBS more in detail as compared to program roadmap? Yes, that is true. PWBS is a lot more detailed than compared to program roadmap, because roadmap is more of a single slide presentation versus PWBS, like any other WBS items, goes in a lot more detail. Now, what this question is primarily testing us is around what level of detail is sufficient. Okay. Now, Manju, you were explaining about the detail. I would request you to explain that again.
Yeah, the details are specific to the activities, right? Pour concrete, install HVAC, run cabling, the one which is highlighted.
Hmm.
They're like a getting into the what execution details for a particular component. So
Yes.
if you just look into the overall program, these are the activities for a particular component. So from that angle, I'm just thinking like yes, it should not be like a deep diving into the activities which are like a scoped under a particular component, right? Since
Yes.
we are like focusing on the program management.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, and I'll further add on to it, right? So the way how PWBS is explained in the standard is it should have sufficient detail for the program manager to track the progress of the program. Okay. Now, when you come down to a statement like sufficient detail, it means that it should be just at an appropriate level. Okay. Now, translating that, it should not overlap with your project WBS. Okay, because your project WBS is a document of your project manager, not your program document. Okay, and what we believe, okay, or rather what PMI believes, is whenever you're looking into program management, you're trusting that the project manager knows what he is doing. Okay, there's obviously a governance mechanism and escalation mechanism which can help you drive things in a better way whenever there are failures or possible risk and issues. But what we say over here is the program manager is going to be doing so many other things that he won't have enough time to go into that level of a detail which a project manager has to do. That's why he's appointing a project manager to do it. Okay. Now, I'll go through the answers that we have over here, but I hope this kind of sets the foundation, right? A is, do we need PWBS? Yes, as per PMI, we do need it. What is the level of detail? It should be sufficient level of detail. What does that translate into? It translates into the level of detail that will help the program manager manage the program in the most appropriate way. And that level of detail does not overlap with the details that will be there in the respective component, also known as projects. Okay, wherein you are going with those details in the project work breakdown structure. Okay, so yes, C is the correct answer, but let's kind of walk through why the others are incorrect. Okay, now answer A, it is correct provided the program manager is also the project manager. Even if that's the case, yes, does that really happen? Yes, it does happen, wherein a program manager is also owning some components, and yeah, he might be acting as a project manager as well. But no, because we are going to stop at the level where the project has enough, or rather the program has enough insights for making decisions. You're not going to dig deeper into it. Yes, even if that's the situation, the program manager managing that particular project will create a separate project work breakdown structure. Okay, so hence this answer goes as wrong. Okay, next one, it is incorrect. The PWBS should not list data center at all. Very, very, very confusing answer over there. Why not? It's a key milestone. Okay, why not? So, whenever you're getting such kind of answers which are an exact flip story of what the question's really asking you to explain, just think about it. Okay, ask why not, and most of the times these answers would go wrong. Okay, next, it is perfect, the more detail the better. No, rather it's exactly the opposite. We do not want more details, because the more details will be there in the respective components. We are not going to overlap, in other words, interfere with the project manager's work. Okay, so hence D is also incorrect. Okay, which brings us to the correct answer. Yes, it is incorrect. Why? Because detailed tasks belong into the project work breakdown structure, not the program work breakdown structure. Okay, cool. I'll take a quick pause.
Yeah.
Any questions on this before I move on to the next one?
Just like I wanted to bring up
Mhm,
the experience or like observation from my previous engagements.
mhm,
So I used to work with a client, and
mhm,
that the program manager, right, he used to like manage all the program components together in a smart sheet, right?
mhm,
In the smart sheet, we used to like ask all the respective project manager to like
mhm,
update the program breakdown structures, right? Like what all the activities are there. They
mhm,
used to like list everything, and
mhm.
the smart sheet used to give overall picture like how each of the components are doing. It's like more of a, like a practical usage, like what we have done. But from the program management perspective, I think we should not get into so much details. I'm not sure like whether it is
See,
like a
see,
practically.
I understand where you're coming from. Okay. See, would different organizations have different tools or program tracking systems in place wherein they will have a central location wherein all the information for a given program comes together? Okay. Or rather is structured together? Yes. Okay, the organization
Mhm,
that I'm currently working for has a centralized system. So most of
mhm,
the organizations, in fact most of the Fortune 500 organizations, would have a centralized project tracking system, because again, right, one of the key things is around projects is, are we on track? Okay, so they would have a
mhm,
centralized system. Now how does that centralized system help feed everyone around status reporting and so on? That's more on the usage side of it. Okay, now, what we are asking over here, and to the point that you rightly brought up, Manju, is what is the level of detail that the program manager should be focusing on? Because if the program manager is focusing on very less amount of information, then he doesn't know what's happening with the program. On the other side, if he's going into very detail into each and every component, then the challenge comes in over here is, imagine if there are 10 components, how would he be able to manage 10 components together? That's to manage those 10 components, he would have appointed project managers. Okay. So hence he has to have the trust and faith in the project managers that they would be doing their job while maintaining an oversight around all of these components and helping govern the program's success. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes.
Cool. Any other questions on this before we move on to the next one? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll flash the answer. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think we are good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay. And as you can see over here, right? This was the answer that we discussed. Okay. I'll move on to the next one. 117.
I would like to go with the D.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Isaac.
Just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I would think that, well, on the answer that I given here, I would think that it's probably D. just using elimination.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
um, ideally, since the roadmap is coming from strategy and it is created before the master schedule comes to before the master schedule is created, then ideally strategy should inform what the the technical parts say. But it is the master schedule that has um the more detail to inform what, because strategy is mostly high level. It's
Mm-hmm.
the master schedule that has the detail to inform more accurately what is happening in the roadmap. So the roadmap is more strategic, but it is also um, quite high level. So from the answers given, B is the most correct. Though if it was open-ended, I would say that uh, probably through uh, governance and all to drive a change,
Mm-hmm.
you'd the roadmap holds more power over the master schedule. Um,
Okay. And uh, okay, Isaac. Let me
yes.
kind of start. These are certain good discussion points. So let's kind of spend couple of minutes on it. Okay. So y- so when we are kind of looking through this entire thing over here, right? In the sequence of documents, okay. Um, After your business case and your project charter is made, the very next thing that you would be making is the program roadmap. Okay, because and it is one of those documents which will help the senior executives understand how are we tracking against the different deliverables. Okay, that's the key part around the program roadmap. Now, like business case, like project charter, program roadmap also becomes a input document for various other documents. Okay, program master schedule is also one of them. Okay, wherein program roadmap feeds into the program master schedule. Okay, now don't get confused with the words strategic, tactical. Ignore those words. Even during the exam, you're gonna see certain additional of these words being put in over there, which might end up confusing you and giving you different answers which don't make sense. Okay, so even okay, the reason I brought these words in there is just so that you can understand that these are not the deal breaker words. Okay, rather these are words which might end up confusing you. Okay, on one side you might think about it, well, why not program master schedule, why is it tactical, why can't it be strategic? Okay, so during the exam you should avoid reading into these words which actually are not adding any value. Okay, so that's number one. Now the number two over here is when you're looking through the entire phases, and this is what I brought in over here, right? So you got the define, you got the deliver, you got the closure. Okay, within define you got the formulation and planning. Deliver is purely around execution, wherein you would also do execution monitoring and control. And closure is obviously when you're closing the entire program. Okay, now it doesn't really matter. Okay, in whichever phase you are. Okay, over here it says during the planning phase, what is the correct action? Okay, please understand programs are aligned to the business strategy. Okay, and whenever your business strategy changes, so would your program roadmap. And whenever your roadmap changes, most probably your master schedule will also change. And vice versa as well. Let's say there is a huge risk that has originated, okay, in your program, and you have recorded that in your master schedule, and then that has to be reflected back into the program roadmap as well. Okay, so and understand program master schedule is more towards the time part of the time management side of the program. Okay, so something that we were expecting is going to finish by Q1, or in this case was going to finish by Q3. Now it's going to finish by Q4. Okay, fine, now we understand that the timeline has moved from what we had originally envisioned. As the timeline has moved, we need to now go ahead and make the change. So even if I remove this entire thing, Okay, what is the correct action irrespective of the phases? Phases do not matter here. Okay, whether it's define, whether it's deliver, whether it's closure, it simply doesn't matter. Closure less off, because I don't think that you're gonna have that much around the schedule and roadmap talk while you're heading into closure, but especially around define and deliver doesn't really matter. Okay, if there is a change, yes, you need to have that reflected. Okay, now let's go through the answers, and like you rightly said, Isaac, with the process of elimination from the top, discard the master schedule. Sorry, not the right thing. You cannot just simply discard the schedule. Okay, and saying that you're only going to use one document versus the other, no. As for PMI, both of these documents have their respective purposes. Okay, so you can't just say that I'm going to stop using one document and I'm only going to rely on the other. So A is wrong. Keep the roadmap at Q3 to motivate the team, but secretly plan for Q4. Real life things like these might happen, wherein you might have an open timeline for someone, but then internally you might be tracking against a different one. Again, right? You should distance yourself from any of these things which might happen in your workplace. So, hence, B also goes incorrect. C, force the project teams to compress their schedules to hit Q3. Again, hold on. The question over here is we have a misalignment of timelines between two critical documents. Okay. And work with the project teams, even if this would have been instead of force, it would be say collaborate with the project teams to compress their schedules. Yes, you could do that. But before you even do all those things, you need to first update the documents. Okay. So had this word been collaborate, okay, it would have still been wrong. Okay, so just don't see that oh well, I've seen the word force and hence it is incorrect. Had this been word as a collaborate, it would have been a correct answer. No, it would have still been incorrect. And Isaac, to the point that you were raising earlier, right? Just be clear around what the sentence or what the meaning is coming out of that particular answer option. Okay, so even if this would have been collaborate, it would have still been wrong. Okay, so in simple terms, what this question is coming back to is saying that there is a misalignment between two documents around timelines. Okay, what is the correct action that we need to do? First is we need to get the alignment done. Okay, once the alignment is done, obviously you can then work through the rest of the actions. Okay, but doesn't really matter which phase you are in, define or deliver, doesn't matter. Okay, your documents need to be aligned. Got it? Okay. Any questions on this before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, one small clarification.
Mhm.
Okay. A delay for approval, right? We have to communicate the delay to the approval.
Yes.
So we are in the planning phase. So in the planning phase also we have like a two stages, right? One is like where
Hmm.
what formulation and another is planning, right?
Yes.
So in the formulation stage, if these changes are like something is coming up where like nothing is signed off or like nothing is locked down, right?
Mhm.
So still that approval cycle is going to be part of that because it's a more of like a formulation stage, right?
Okay.
We are
Okay. Let me explain this in a. It's a very good question, Manju, that you have asked, and let's expand on that question. Okay. So, what are the different documents that we actually get in the formulation phase? Okay. So, and again, we've kind of spoken about this, but I'm just going to quickly get that in. So, one is the business case. Okay. After business case, what is the next one?
we have the program plan,
Charter.
program
Okay.
charter,
And then after program charter, what do we have?
roadmap.
Roadmap. Okay. Now understand each one of these documents gets signed off. Okay. Each
Mhm.
one of these documents actually has timelines. Okay. At a very high
Yeah,
level, though.
yeah.
At a very high level. Okay. At a very high level. Now, imagine this, right? In your business case, you have said that you're going to deliver this by Q3, but now you have understand you're going to deliver it only by Q4. Okay. And
Mhm.
think about it in a situation like you have to be first to the market to really take the benefit of the program. Okay. Now,
Mhm.
there is a competitor who might beat you to it. The competitor will launch in Q3. You're going to launch in Q4. Okay. So you'll have to be very,
Okay.
very clear about these things. Okay. So approvals. Okay. And this is where I would humbly request, don't think about PMP when you're doing PGMP. Okay. Over here, the moment you talk about business case in PMP, okay, let's take a vis-a-vis comparison over here, right? In
Mhm.
in PMP, whenever you make a business case, you're rarely going to change it. In
Mhm.
PMP, when you're going to make the project charter, you're going to rarely change it. Roadmap is something you may or may not make, but let's just stick to business case and charter, right?
Yeah.
The exact opposite is there in program management. In program management, you're going to align the program to the business strategy to deliver the business value. Okay,
Right.
now whenever there are changes that are going to happen to the business strategy, to the business value, you will be making changes. Okay, so one is a
Mhm.
complete locked, the other one is a iteratively defined. Okay,
Mhm.
so don't think in that way that, well, okay, I can only talk about approvals when I'm there in the execution phase. Absolutely not. You're going to talk about approvals throughout. You're going to talk about
Okay.
communication throughout, across all the phases. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
Any other questions on this?
I'm good from my side.
I'm good.
Okay, let's move on to the next one then. Okay, there we go. 118. There we go.
I'd like to go with a D.
Hmm.
Same.
This is relatively easy, right? This is relatively
Yeah.
easy. Okay. Now, do remember that in PGMP exam as well, not every question is going to be super duper difficult, but don't get so hung up on a question, okay, because you've got an easy question out there. Okay. Because I've seen people who might say, why is this question so simple? And you start self doubting the correct answer. Don't do that, please. Please don't do that. Here it is very simple. A program, okay, is expected to give you both tangible as well as intangible benefits. Okay. Now, what the standard definitely calls out is, even if it's an intangible benefit, you can still develop a metric to measure the performance. Okay. Is the sponsor wrong? No. What sponsor is saying is, if we can't measure it, it's not a benefit. Yes, absolutely right. Okay, we can't just paint a rosy picture and say that, well, our program's going to achieve this, but how are you going to track it? How are you going to measure it? Okay. Yes. So you need to come up with a metric, okay, a measure on how you track a particular benefit. And that's what the answer D clearly articulates. The answer D says that yes, we can create a proxy measure, okay, a KPI, retention rates, and track it. Okay. On the contrary, the other options are very very simple, right? Agree with the sponsor, remove it from the register? No. Program standard very clearly says it can be intangible as well as intangible, and yes, intangible benefits can also be measured. Assign it to HR and remove it from the program scope. Okay, you cannot do something like this. The answer itself gives something extremely wrong. Convert it to a tangible benefit by guessing a dollar value. Why guessing? No, it's wrong. Okay. So, an easy question, don't doubt yourself. Okay. Cool. Let's go to the second last question of the day. There we go.
So we'll go with the B.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Um, hmm, I'm
B,
torn
B,
between
not a D, not D, B, B for
B for
Bombay.
boy. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
yes. All right, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. 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 Okay. The question is fairly simple. The question is saying talking about quality management plan, and as we have understood in PMP, we are going to have a project quality management plan as well, which is going to be very much focused towards the components of it. Okay. Now, why do we need a program level quality management plan? Is remember, program is always going to be an integration of the different components. Okay. While the individual components might be of the best quality, but when they come together, okay, their integration should also be of the best quality. Okay. It's as simple as that. Remember, whenever we talk about program plans, including the quality management plan, always think about integration. Okay. Are the project managers complaining in the right way? They might be thinking that they are right because their project managers are more focused around what they are to deliver as a scope. Program manager has an overarching view of how everything kind of comes together. Okay. So let's go through the answers and then we'll kind of go through. QA is needed to punish underperforming project managers. Uh, there might be an outcome which might be like if a manager has not been performing, then there might be more support to it. But again, this is too harsh of a statement or an answer option to. QA is required to double check every line of code. Not necessarily. QA is needed because the governance board said so. Okay. Yes, there could be a situation wherein a governance board says that before you come to me for a stage gate review, you have to satisfy certain set of quality parameters. Okay. So a quality management plan is heavily influenced by your governance board. Okay. But hold on. Okay. Do we have a better answer? QA ensures that the processes are being followed, process quality, not just product checking. Okay. That's also a holistic way of what we are doing the as per the plan. And yes, your answers are correct. It is B. Okay. Now, why didn't we choose D? Okay. I'll flip the question in the other way. Okay. Even if your governance board does not mandate creating a quality management plan or creating a quality assurance request, as a program manager, you should still have something in place. Okay. So that you can focus more towards the quality of the integration of the work that happens. I'll give a simplistic example. Hope that kind of settles that in. So this was one of the cities, and I won't name the country. Okay, this is one of the cities wherein there were two independent contractors who were working on building a bridge. Okay, one was coming from the south, the other one was coming from the north, and ultimately they had to kind of come together at a given position. Okay. Now think about this as a program having two independent projects, wherein one's building one component, the other one's building the other. And ultimately, the way we are going to achieve the program objective is when both of them integrate well together. Now, in this case, what had happened was one project had the height of the bridge a lot higher as compared to the other. So, yes, they did come together, but there was a gap. And hence, we couldn't achieve the program objective. Okay. Now, that's where, at a program level, taking this as an example, right? That's where, at a program level, you would need to kind of build up a quality management plan, wherein at each and every stage, how are these benefits getting integrated? How are these components getting integrated so that you can avoid having that kind of a mismatch? Okay. And an negative impact on the program. Okay. So hence, doesn't really matter whether the governance board asks for it or not. it is advisable as per the standard to have a quality management plan, because that's going to help you drive the integration, and the purpose of the integration is to deliver the benefits. Okay, clear with that? Any questions on this?
Good
Yeah,
on my side.
yeah, good on my side.
Okay, cool. Let's go to the last question for the day.
I would go with A.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
even I'm thinking a
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, now let's talk about what this question primarily is, right? Okay. Now, risk management strategy is primarily very closely aligned to saying that how do we as a program want to manage the risk that would originate as part of running the program. Okay. Now imagine when I say running the program, there would be certain risk which would happen at a program level, okay, which would impact all the project items, versus there would be the other way around, wherein there might be a risk that might have originated at the project level, which might impact the overall program. Okay. Now, one of the key things that most of the sponsors would really like to do is they would like to kind of have a clear view on the risk which have huge impact on the program. Okay. In this case, the way it's articulated is talk about the risk that could kill the program. Okay, it could use some other statement as well, a risk that could derail the program's success, or risk that could put the program in jeopardy, and so on. So multiple things, but ultimately it's aiming for the same one, right? Any risk that could immediately impact the program's success. Okay, now why is this important? Let's take a step back. Okay, see, you would have certain risk originating at a project level, which you as a program manager would be empowering the project managers so that they can manage those risks. Okay, and you would be enabling them as well. Okay, because they should not run to you at every risk that originates, because again, project managers are also highly qualified members. Okay, they know how to handle different risk. Okay, so there should be a threshold around which risk that they can manage themselves, and a governance model which says that, okay, if a particular threshold has been breached, then as per the governance, whom should the project managers contact? In this case, most of it's going to be the program manager. Okay, similarly, while program managers are uh, seasoned professionals who know how to handle different program level risk, they might also uncover certain situations which they cannot handle, which is where your governance plan comes into play, which clearly articulates, okay, if in this case, whom should they escalate to? Okay, now this would be the governance plan, kind of a guideline around how escalations can go from project managers to program managers, and from program managers to steering committee, board members, sponsors, and so on. Okay, there would be certain expectations that the steering committee and sponsors would also have. They would say that please don't run to us at every risk that you have. Okay, you can report statuses on regular cadence, but just don't run to us at every risk situation, which is where we would be establishing certain thresholds, okay, which clearly indicate what kind of an empowerment that the program manager has. Okay, in this case, the program manager is a highly skilled member. The sponsor says, you handle the day to day things, you come to me when really, for the lack of a better term, things go completely off and we're going to see a program fail. Okay, so that's what he is saying. And to manage that, yes, in simple terms, the answer is correct. We would set up an escalation threshold. In this case, we will put it to very high. And this also means that the program manager has a very high level of autonomy on how he can manage things. With that, obviously, he would need to exercise his skill sets and ensure that the expectations are met. Okay. The next one, B, refuse the sponsor request. No, completely wrong. Remove the risk register requirement. That's never going to happen. Set the threshold to zero so you can report everything. Absolutely wrong. That's the exact opposite of what's been asked. Sorry. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this question is very interesting because initially when I was like reading the question, right,
Mhm.
I was finding little tricky to answer it. But when I looked into the answer options, I was able to like make out the answer exactly because
Exactly.
the elimination strategy, right, normally will be used. So I just like went with the elimination strategy. Then during the explanation, I was able to understand yes why I have selected something. But actually, I went with the elimination strategy.
Good, 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 good. Isaac, from you?
For me, yes, like Manju said, limitation strategy, but also the, the first answer has, um, well, you're talking about escalation strategy, which is very evident in risk management.
True.
And you're talking about the agile method of managing the program, which dictates that there's going to be high autonomy in the how the program is managed. So it would only set A to be the right one or the most correct answer, even if there were others which were close.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. So that's all I had for today. Any other questions that you had? I'm happy to cover that up now. Any other questions? Any other inputs? Happy to take them up.
Um, First of all, to thank you for putting this up, Chandok. I don't know if I'm mentioning that name right,
You are
but
calling it correct.
also,
You're calling it correct. Yes, that's my last name. Yes.
awesome. Thank you. Awesome. You did mention at the start that you do post these on YouTube.
Hmm.
Is it possible to get your channel? Maybe I can catch up with the ones that I missed.
Okay, sure. Let me just message it on this chat right now. Give me a second.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions you had?
No, that was it. First time in the Q&A for this that you're setting up. I've seen it before, but this is the first time I was able to channel in. So
No
happy to
worries at
be
all.
here.
No worries at all. No worries at all. I'll just send you the playlist. So that should really help you kind of take this forward. Okay. So I'll just share the playlist and then you take it up from there. Okay.
Sounds good. All right.
Cool.
That's good. Thank you.
Awesome. Anything
Yeah,
else?
yeah. Just I wanted to know, like, how much percentage of the questions will be on the program financials domain, right? Because
Hmm.
we have program budget, program financials, program framework, financial framework. Like, there's some specific areas are there. I'm just like a curious, like, how much details, whether there will be like some calculations, or there will be like
So
some.
calculations are going to be fairly less. Okay,
Okay.
because see, understand this is more focused towards kind of your understanding around program management. Okay, so
Hmm.
so you won't have in it's more of an understanding part of it, not like mathematical questions. Okay, so for example, right, during PMP you would have got some questions out there which can be a bit tricky. You won't have any calculation questions coming, at least from my experience. Okay.
Okay.
However,
Okay.
it's going to be extremely tricky around how certain questions are framed. And I don't know, recently when I'm looking into the Reddit thread, I could see a lot of members actually facing challenges on the PGMP exam. I've seen many actually struggling to kind of clear it. Okay. About few months back, like about 2 3 months back, I could see the success rate of people being in at an incline. But over the last couple of months or so, I've seen that kind of coming down. So I don't know whether PMI has increased the complexity of the questions, or whether people have not prepared well. I just don't know what's happened in that case. But certainly calculation questions are not something that I've in my experience seen anyone kind of talk through.
Okay, okay, yeah. Because normally, yeah, some component is like ahead of schedule, some component is like behind the schedule. So they just try to like summarize and
No,
submit
the
up. I just seen some questions.
critical path
Yeah,
method, CPMs, and so
mm,
on. No,
yeah.
you're not going to see those kind of calcs coming in. Will there be any
Okay.
calcs on financials, which you were saying earlier, or on ROIs? There
Hmm.
won't be any calculation on ROIs, but there would be a calculation on the interpretation of those. Okay, like for example, you might see a question which says that you got three programs, and each one of them has a different ROI. Which one you should pick? So it will be more of that side of things rather than saying that, okay, well, give me a calculation of how you would do ROI. No, that won't be there. Okay, it's not a
Okay.
calculative exam as compared to the others. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Yeah, one more question,
Mm-hmm.
right, around the scope or like a overall planning perspective or
Mm-hmm.
governance perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So some questions which I have seen is like taking the questions to the portfolio level. So when
Yeah.
portfolio governance and the program governance are like coming up with the same questions, right? So I'm just like struggling to understand and like see. Of course, portfolio is like
So
always like on
so
the
let
higher
me
side.
let me let me kind of put this in a slightly different way. Okay. So
Okay.
just like few minutes back, right? We spoke about governance framework.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when it comes down to governance framework, you're also looking into the escalation matrix.
Yeah.
Okay, as to whom should you reach out for what. Now, portfolio is also one of the key, or rather, portfolio management or portfolio manager, depending around how that is structured, is also one of the key elements. Sorry, my voice just cut off. Am I audible now?
Yeah, now we are
Okay.
able to.
So
Yeah.
what I was mentioning is, see, portfolio is one of the key elements of your escalation matrix. Okay.
Right.
Now, flip story of that is, I'll take an example over here. Let's say you were running a program, and as you were running a program, your organization decided to merge with another organization. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, when mergers happen, okay, your business strategy changes. As your business strategy changes, the portfolio of things, okay, that the
Mhm.
business has to do, that also changes. As that changes, so you see, right, business merged in there, impacted
Mhm.
business strategy. Business
Mhm.
strategy impacted portfolio strategy, and
Mhm.
portfolio strategy will impact all the different programs within
Mhm.
that portfolio. Okay, so
Mhm.
see it from that direction
Mhm.
when you're thinking about portfolio. Okay,
Mhm.
so don't go individualistic, because these are, I understand that people might think that these work in isolation, but they aren't. All of these are
Mhm.
interrelated. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
hope that answers.
Yeah, just like I try to like see like how much uh, what deviation will you have to think, right? So the moment
So you don't
portfolio
have to be.
mentioned, right?
See, I'll tell
Yeah.
you, right. For doing PGMP, you don't have to do PFMP. If I have to put it in
Mhm.
that way. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
so don't overdo that. Okay.
Mhm.
It's important to think it through, but
Mhm.
don't overdo it. Okay.
Yeah, the scenario is like this. If a new component needs to be authorized or like signed off,
Mhm.
either because of a portfolio as a like a recommended it or like a program needs that one, right? So, but how the portfolio, how the approval mechanism is going to work if it is like coming
See,
from different.
understand, right? It doesn't matter where the change comes from. Let's take a
Mhm.
take a step back, right? Doesn't matter where the change comes from, as in when the change comes, okay, you need
Mhm.
to follow the change management procedures or the change management plan of your program. Okay,
Mhm.
why just the portfolio? Why not the bank's, or rather the organization's CEO?
Mhm.
The most senior-most person in the organization. Why just not the
Okay.
CEO? Let's talk about the board of directors of the organization. Okay.
Mhm.
Any
Okay.
change comes in, you will follow the change management plan. Okay.
Mhm.
That's the reason you make that plan. Doesn't matter whom it comes from. Change comes in,
Okay.
project, portfolio, another program, CEO, whomsoever. You're going to follow the process. That's why you get it signed off. All the plans that you make during the formulation and rather during the planning phase, everything will be signed off so that you know what you need to follow when you're in the heat, when you're in the midst of things. Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. I wrote a small thing, small clarification.
Mm-hmm,
So if it is a program, right, as the program
mm-hmm.
sponsor is like a normally termed as like accountable for the success of the program, and program manager is like more of a responsible, right?
Yeah,
Right. So if the program is like part of the portfolio, so whether a portfolio manager, portfolio owner is like a
stakeholder,
accountable.
stakeholder.
Okay. Okay. Portfolio, they are like more accountable, or like I'm just like
Mm,
trying to.
so take it in a slightly different way.
Okay.
Okay, because don't get too lost in as to how an organization is structured. Okay, because
Mhm.
if you go into that direction, believe me, every organization is structured in a different way. Simplify.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
sponsor. Okay,
Mhm.
sponsor is purely accountable for everything that happens for the program's success. Okay, you as a program
Mhm.
manager, you're responsible so that you can deliver the accountability for the program manager, or rather program
Mhm.
sponsor, sorry. Okay, now don't bring into the angle as to in an organization, let's say the sponsor is part of the portfolio management office. Why do you want to overthink that? Please don't.
Mhm. Okay.
Just go simple. You know exactly
Mhm.
who's accountable, you know exactly who's
Mhm.
responsible. Just go with that.
Mhm.
Don't go into the spaghetti of how different organizations manage PMOs. Okay, it
Mhm.
will lead you into a path wherein you will be comparing apples and oranges, and that may not be an idealistic setup which
Mhm.
PMI normally focuses on. Okay,
Got it. Yeah, that really helps.
awesome. Any other questions for me? Okay, then we'll call it a wrap. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining
Thank
in.
you, Aman.
Have a
Thanks for
wonderful
time.
evening.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.